Welcome to the WTR Small Cap Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Tim Gerdeman, Vice Chair and Co-founder and Chief Marketing Officer of Water Tower Research. Today we're joined by Tal Jacobson, Chief Executive Officer of Perion Network, NASDAQ, ticker symbol PERI. Perion is an AI native advertising technology company that helps brands, agencies, retailers optimize their ad spend across channels like connected TV, digital out of home, retail media, social, and the open web. The company's Perion One platform and its Outmax AI agent serve 52 of the Fortune 100 companies. Also joining us is my WTR Equity Research colleague, James Kisner. Good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for joining me.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Tal, you've called 2026 year one for the new Perion. For listeners who may not be familiar with the company's evolution, can you please give them a quick overview of what Perion does and where the company is strategically headed?
Absolutely. So Perion has been around for years, especially as a public company. But last year, we totally pivoted the company and reset our strategy, our management team, and our product line. And we're now focusing on the biggest problem of digital advertising. Now, digital advertising is a huge market with over $1 trillion a year in marketing spend. And we figured out that there's the biggest issue is it's too fragmented, too many platforms, too many solutions, and extremely hard for CFOs and CMOs to understand how the money is being spent and what is the ROI. So Perion One does not replace other platforms, but it actually sits above all other platforms and try to make sense out of the noise to help CMOs and CFOs to understand their yield on their media investment.
Great, thank you. I think I may have misspoken. I believe it was 2025 that you called year one,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes,
Yes,
2025.
okay, very good. James?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And again, welcome, Kyle. You had a really strong fourth quarter. Contribution ex TAC was up 19%. EBITDA was up over 50%. So, what's driving that momentum, and how much of it is the Perion One platform starting to click?
Yeah. Uh, uh, the majority of our products and our new products is focused on outcome. So really about ROI on media spend. And we're seeing great success on that. And especially with uncertainty in the economy, we're seeing more and more advertisers shifting dollars into outcome-driven products. And that's what we saw in Q4, which was, as you said, a pretty strong quarter.
All right, let's turn to your growth engines. CTV, digital out of home, and retail media. They're all growing well ahead of the broader market. Can you talk about what's fueling that and where you see the most runway?
Sure. Um, you're absolutely right. Our CTV is showing very nice growth. Our retail media also a good adoption, and our digital out of home, which I think the market is now realizing is a great channel for performance. I don't think that was the case a few years back. As I said, it all comes now under one roof and under one platform. So it's easier for our customers to now upsell or cross budgets in between those channels, and that really drives those growth.
Okay, thank you. Let's turn to Outmax, which is really, I think, central to the Perion One story. So, for investors who aren't deep in ad tech, can you explain in plain terms what Outmax does and why an advertiser would use it instead of just going directly through Google or Meta?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of investors are asking us this. I think it's going to be easier to investors to even understand this better even than marketers. Custom algo or custom algo trading has been around for like 20 years in the stock market. And we know algo trading can do things that no human can do, right? It's impossible to compete with that. We took that exact methodology and created an algo trading for media. So when you think about it, there's $1 trillion a year going through the pipes. And now we have an AI agent that sits above those buying platforms and buy through an algorithm on behalf of our brands. And as you said, We serve the majority of the 1,000 top brands in the US, and a lot of them are now using Outmax, which provides up to 80 or 90% better results than the manual work.
Yeah, algorithm trading has certainly taken over the world and had a huge impact. I can see how that would help in your world as well. And so you've announced some notable partnerships recently. Amazon, Walmart Connect, MasterCard, and you acquired Greenbids last year, which became Outmax, of course. So and that now works with big platforms such as Google, YouTube, Meta, and TikTok. So how do these pieces fit together, and what do they unlock for Perion going forward?
Yeah. So I think, with this entire evolution of AI, data is really the key, right? So it's like fuel for cars. AI without a lot of data is not going to be able to do anything. So those partnership, especially with big retailers on consumer behavior data, no personal data, of course, but consumer behavior data, really helps our AI algorithm to provide better results. And our job is not to replace any other platform. Our job is to sit above those platforms with the right data and the right algorithm to provide those results. And we think partnership is the way to go and the way to scale as fast as possible.
That makes a ton of sense. So the market is fragmenting across walled gardens. You might call them CTV, retail media, the open web. Instead of relying on a single channel, Perion One is pitched as kind of channel agnostic, channel agnostic platform. So how does your AI ensure advertisers get the best outcomes across such a divided landscape?
Yeah. Um, I think that's really the strongest part of Perion. Well, companies like Meta or TikTok or Google are great. They really are amazing at what they do. They can only offer you their own inventory. So you would never hear Meta say, you know what, for this specific campaign, you should actually go to Google. With us, we're not connected to any inventory. So our goal is to make you the best yield on your media investment. And we can actually recommend for a specific campaign and say, you know what, for this specific campaign, we think you should do less of that and more of this, which is very unique. There are no other companies in the world that can actually do that, especially with an algorithm that can actually shift that.
Sounds very, very value added. So I like to kind of sort of step back and maybe take a higher level view. You've laid out a 3-year plan. You're targeting 20+% organic contribution, ex TAC CAGR. That was a long set of acronyms. And expanding EBITDA margins to 28% by 2028. You're sitting on over 300 million in cash. How does your focus on the AI execution layer distinguish Perion in the market, and how does it inherently drive the operating leverage needed to fit those long-term profitability targets?
Yeah. So when we look at the products that we have under the hood at Perion One now on our platform, and we look back on the historical growth for those specific products, we were always around 19-20% year over year. So, and we think that's obviously we feel that should still be the case around that. Um, as for efficiency, the EBITDA margin we think in 2028 should go to 28%. And obviously, AI is a major driver, right, in efficiency. A lot of automation. As we scale our revenue, we do not think we need to scale the amount of people, the headcount. So that should really drive the efficiency going forward.
Yeah, it sounds like it's not just a revenue driver; it's also an efficiency driver for you guys, and that's
Absolutely.
great to see you guys benefiting from AI from kind of all sides there. So, well, thank you, Tal. I'm going to pass it back to Tim to wrap things up for us.
Oh, well, thanks, gentlemen, for joining us today. A very interesting story at Perion, and look forward to following it as 2026 unfolds. So thanks again for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, as well as visiting www.watertowerresearch.com to stay up to speed on the company's small cap written research reports, podcasts, fireside chats, industry-specific symposiums, and conference schedules. We will see you next time for another edition of the WTR Small Cap Spotlight podcast. Finally, a special thanks to the producer and editor of the podcast, Krista Fitzpatrick.